Good morning, party people. Happy Saturday. Today we're talking about struggles, talking about mama issues. Don't nobody ever talk about mama issues. We all talk about daddy issues. Don't nobody talk about mama issues. I hope y'all are feeling well. I hope you've been drinking enough water. I hope you got enough sleep. Let me pop into my Discords real quick. And oopsie. Holla at my friends as per usual. Oopsie. So today we're gonna view a snippet of the Facebook watch show Red Table Talk with Jada Pinkett Smith, Willow Smith, and her mom. His name I don't remember, but they always call her Gammy. If you haven't watched that show, it's an incredible show to watch. Like I said, it's on Facebook Watch, so if you have a Facebook, just go to the little watch section of the videos. You can type in Red Table Talk, and I think they're on the 5th season right now. There's tons of episodes on there. So we're going to watch one of them, just a snippet of it, and hopefully I don't get banned or nothing. But we're going to watch a specific part in which the trauma therapist that they go to, I forget her name, but they'll say her name, discusses something called mother hunger, which is essentially when someone's mother doesn't provide the 3 things that a mother is supposed to provide. And I don't know if this, I think she says it, but I don't know if this is specific to a mother-daughter relationship or if this is, could be a mother-son relationship too, because the woman that they're speaking to, her name is Jeanette McCurdy. She's known as Miranda from the show iCarly. She talks about the strained relationship that she had with her mother before her mom passed away, and she wrote a book called, I think it was called I'm Glad She Died or something like that, and got a bunch of backlash for it. But considering the relationship that she had with her mom, it makes sense. So if y'all want to watch the whole episode, let me know and I'll link it. But again, you can just look up Red Table Talk. I'll tell you the name of this episode. But the premise essentially is, all of our mothers, all of our parents are doing the best that they can, and even with that understood, if a mother doesn't provide the 3 essential things that a mother is supposed to provide to, once again, like I mentioned, I'm not sure if this is just for daughters or for, all of her children. Let's just say all of her children. There's always going to be this struggle in the development of her children because they're not getting the things that they're supposed to get from their mother. And the gal mentions, the trauma therapist that they're speaking to mentions, that this took years and years of research to determine what these 3 things are, because this isn't something that is readily spoken about or readily researched. So they had to do a lot of research on their own and gather a lot of information and do all these things in order to pinpoint what these 3 things are. And as someone who, grew up in a home with a single black mother who was and is still hyper independent, very much wears that superwoman cape, to a T, and was never really, kind of still isn't emotionally available, never really said things like, I'm proud of you, you know what I mean, never really said things like, I enjoy spending time with you, and blah, 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 blah. Those things were just supposed to be implied, but they weren't actually said out loud. And, our relationship is okay from everything but an emotional standpoint. There's still aspects of our emotional relationship together that are just strained and uncomfortable and weird, and she literally cannot handle seeing people cry. Like, it's just like one time is okay, but then after that it's like too much, like you need to stop. It's just, and it makes her physically uncomfortable. She'll remove herself. She doesn't want to speak to someone if they're crying. Like, it's a whole, yeah. And I know that a lot of this goes back to her upbringing and her childhood and the way that she was raised and the relationship that she had with her mother. But I don't know the ins and outs of that relationship because my grandmother passed away in 2009, I think, 2010. And even if she were still alive, I'd still have to actually see the relationship between my mom and my grandmother, which I didn't. So, anywho, let's go ahead and hop into this video. Let me pause the music, and we are going to watch a snippet of this video. Let me take off my camera real quick, show the browser, and let's watch.
We're bringing out one of our favorite, Kelly McDaniel. She is a trauma therapist, and she specialized in therapy to address what she calls mother hunger.
Thank you so much for having me back.
We love having you here.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you because this is your area.
This is what I do.
This is your specialty.
So many grown daughters who had very abusive mothers need this story. What does a mother actually do?
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
that's not in the dictionary. Took years of clinical practice to come up with mothers do 3 essential things for their daughters. Nurture is the first.
Yeah.
Protect, and then guide. Mm-hmm. And all 3 of those things, when they go missing, I call it third-degree mother hunger.
Ooh.
When none of them happen, and there's abuse on top of that, so there's a fear, you bond to someone who you're inherently scared of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that destroys the relational template. It's hard to then go on and have girlfriends. It's hard to have lovers because your first love betrayed you.
Yeah, that's very interesting, like your relationship with other women. Like,
Well, it talks about in the book that you had a really nice relationship with Miranda, which I
Yes.
thought that was so...
It was beautiful.
That was beautiful. Jeanette hid her mother's abuse from everyone, including her iCarly co-star, Miranda Cosgrove. After reading Jeanette's book, Miranda revealed her heartfelt reaction. When you're young, you're so in your own head. You can't imagine that people around you are having much harder struggles. You don't expect things like that from the person in the room who's making everyone laugh.
I'm very grateful for that friendship. It did provide me a lot of comfort in those really challenging years. My relationship with Miranda was hugely healing to my concept of women. And
Right.
my mom was always saying, men will never really know you and they'll hurt you, but women will know you deeply and then they'll hurt you. You tell me which is worse. These are the thoughts that I'm hearing about women, not to mention my very complicated relationship with my mom and then seeing her relationship with her mom on top of it.
Right.
And I have 3 brothers who I love, and I felt this sort of trust toward boys that I didn't feel toward girls.
Of course.
Very young. And Miranda helped me to heal that relationship, but it is something that I still struggle with.
Kelly, it seems as though more people than we could even imagine
Yes.
experience this.
Yes. I see so much of it because as a culture, we don't like to think that mothers can be abusive. You really, it's called betrayal blindness.
I was going to ask, is that,
Oh,
is that an example
Break that down.
of betrayal blindness?
Okay.
We have to believe our mother is a good person.
Yeah.
If we knew too young that she was betraying us or using us or exploiting us, we couldn't
Survive.
We don't have the wherewithal.
Yeah.
So nature protects us. That's what that is.
Yeah. Kelly, can you talk to us about how Jeanette's mom might have violated her sexually?
That's one of those things where her mother did something shameless.
Yeah.
It was inappropriate and she felt no shame doing it.
Right.
So where does that shame go? All over Jeanette.
It's had to be a result of her mom's own traumas, right?
Most definitely that this
Yeah.
has been a handed down thing. But when I'm working with a daughter,
Yeah.
I kind of don't worry so much about let's understand your mother's trauma. I
Got
kind
it.
of really want her to be able to unpack
Her own.
her own.
Oh, okay.
Especially since mom's not here.
Yeah.
There's no need
Yeah.
Got it.
to do that. And I
Got it.
think Jeanette was already raised to be so aware of her mother's pain.
Yeah.
She was already so raised to be aware of her mother's lost dreams that what you must have had to do to even come back and feel like you get to take up space in the world.
I
Yeah.
literally couldn't name my emotions.
I mean, no.
Yeah.
I'd be sitting there and I'd go, I don't know how to describe what I'm feeling, but it's intense.
Wow. It's
And it
that
could have been hers.
enmeshment, right? Is
That is the enmeshment.
You just got me all the way together on that.
Right.
That idea of having to make a really clear separation.
I went to get my own sort of first apartment. At this point, my mom's cancer had recurred, so it seemed like, okay.
You were around 18?
I was around 18, yeah, and it was horrifying that she had this cancer, but it also seemed like the first time that we were going to be separated, so I felt some relief around that, but also guilt around feeling the relief, and just such a complex layer of emotions.
Yeah.
I got this apartment. And then my mom handed me a copy of The Way We Were, a Robert Redford movie, that night and was like, hey, I got you this. Do you think we could watch this movie together tonight?
Oh.
I knew that wasn't just us watching Robert Redford once for a couple hours. That was Mom moving in, and she continued to ask me every night, can I just stay over tonight? Can I stay over tonight? For about 3 months, until she just didn't ask anymore and lived with me in my first apartment. Yeah, so then we're living in this hoarding, chaotic environment again.
Right.
And I just thought, there is no escaping. There's no escaping.
And this was like a one-bedroom apartment, right?
Yeah.
When she would sleep in the bed with her.
Yeah.
Hugging the whole night. And it's so complicated, too, because then
Right.
there's the layer of the cancer. So she's hugging me tightly, and I feel physically how much her body is deteriorating from cancer.
Right.
How am I supposed to set a boundary? And how am I supposed to look my dying mother in the eye and say, Mom, can you not squeeze me tonight? Because you're really invading my personal boundary. I didn't, and I couldn't.
This is not easy to hear for anyone.
Right.
But when a mother does this in the shower and then continues to kind of take her daughter as her own, way beyond.
Right.
It forms in the daughter's brain a psychological marriage. So this daughter is basically fulfilling the role a spouse is supposed to fill.
Yeah.
So what that does is it makes someone profoundly sexually anorexic. Wow. And then everybody starts to disgust you.
I couldn't
Right.
hug people for so long. I now love hugs and welcome hugs, but it felt inherently inappropriate to me. It felt like they want something from me that I can't give.
Whoa, so did that, like, wow, that just opened up a whole new can of worms for me in this story. Like, dealing with intimacy, your relationship with intimacy in general. Like,
Right.
It's going to be tricky. But because it's a mother, people almost want to think, well, maybe that was okay.
Exactly,
Yes.
bro, that is crazy.
Yeah.
This kind of thing happens a lot, and no one says anything.
Yes, it's hard for people to understand why nobody stepped in.
Totally.
Yeah, can you explain how abuse is pervasive in a way that it can control the whole environment?
Everybody's walking on eggshells.
Right.
Nobody knows.
Nobody's safe.
Nobody
is
knows what's
safe.
going to set her off.
And that's what the thing is that seems to be the common denominator in your story and others, is that we know what it looks like when she gets set off.
Right.
And it's so ugly and it's so terrifying that we just don't go there.
Right.
And what's sad is when her partner can't go there either. But generally, I hear it all the time.
Really?
Men won't protect the children. They'll say, I didn't know that was happening. We assumed everybody was okay.
Wow.
Mothers have a lot of power.
Let me ask you a question. After having this experience, do you think you want to have children of your own?
Ooh, Jada, I was thinking the same
Wow.
thing. Get out of my head.
I would never want to have a child for my own identity. That's a very, very concrete one for me. I'm at a place where, so I'm 30. I don't feel like I want kids. I have 2 nieces that I adore and a third on the way. I'm really happy to be an aunt, and right now I don't feel that I want them, but I'm also open to maybe a couple years from now or whenever something hits me and I just feel like, yeah, I do want that. But for now,
So for now, you're good.
yes.
So, Jeanette, can you tell us about your last conversation with your mom?
Well, the last conversation would have been sort of a non-conversation. Her cancer had spread to her brain. She was in a hospice bed that was set up in our living room, and she was really just detached behind the eyes. So I think this thing happens when people are on their deathbed, or this was at least my experience, where everybody tries to say something to the person who's dying, like it's in an attempt to get them to wake up. My brothers had each kind of given their good news of their lives. And one of them was getting married, one of them was moving back to California. And then I said, Mommy, I'm so skinny right now. Like, the thing that I felt like was the most that I had to offer was my thinness. And I really, really, in my core at that time, I believed that that would get my mother to wake up. I believed that she cared more about my body and my weight than she did about anything else that could possibly be uttered by my brother's mouths.
That's true.
I really felt like that mattered more to her.
I think you even said, I'm 89 pounds.
I did.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So, Nicole joins us and says Jeanette's story has made her feel empowered.
All right, we're pausing there. Woo, mother hunger. Goodness gracious. Anywho, that video, I mean, there's a billion parts in which that video, and I'm just, listening intently and thinking to myself how not insane it is. It's understandable, but it's still really frustrating, the amount of power that mothers do have. And in the realm of being able to listen to and heed, the warning of a child or the warning of a partner or a spouse or whatever, and it almost always feels like you must be exaggerating, you may not have known what you saw. The person is almost immediately discredited because no, that's the person's mother. But yet we hear stories about, we hear in the news about mothers taking their children's lives, about mothers saying, I don't even want these children. I don't know why I had them, but, and of course we hear stories of mothers being incredible mothers and, fathers being incredible fathers, but it's just a lot. What resonates with me the most is when she mentioned, walking on eggshells, not knowing what's going to set her mother off, but just knowing, once she gets set off, it's going to be terrible. And that was my experience growing up, and it wasn't so much that my mom would yell or scream or, break things or throw things. She would just completely withdraw, and she would get upset, but her defense or her reaction was to withdraw and just remove herself from the situation or remove herself from the conversation, say that she didn't want to talk about it, say that it wasn't that serious, so there's the diminishment of whatever legitimate concern that you're bringing to her attention, and all these other things. And so not only are you feeling like something is wrong with you for having the concerns that you have, you're also feeling like, once again, if you're going to receive this kind of reaction because you want to speak to your mother about something, whether it be something that your brother did or something that happened in school or whatever, you don't feel that you have a leg to stand on. And that's the situation that causes children to do things that they regret, children, teens, whatever, to do things that they regret because the person, one of the people, because I didn't grow up with my dad, the person in my life who I'm supposed to be able to communicate with and to trust and to share all these things with is completely, basically doesn't want to acknowledge that there is any kind of issue at all, unless it's a very, very surface issue, like, hey mom, my bike tire popped and I need a new inner tube. Okay, cool. We can physically go to Walmart and purchase a new physical inner tube and bam, the problem is solved. But anything that required any level of depth when it came to problem solving, it just wasn't a topic of conversation. Like, there was no room to talk about those things. And to this day, I still have trouble. Like, my husband can attest to this, of sharing whatever I'm feeling, whatever my concerns are. I've gotten better at it, but it's so much easier for me to just say nothing and just brush it off. And sometimes I can go back, and say, hey, this is what was bothering me, which I think it is better for me to maybe not be in whatever mood, or like not be in that same mental space before I talk about it, because then we can actually have a conversation about it. Whereas if I'm in that mood of frustration, it might be difficult for me to discuss it because I haven't grown past that yet. I haven't grown to a point where I can discuss things while I'm frustrated without getting flustered or just wanting to end the conversation or whatever. But sometimes I'll just send him a text message and we'll converse that way, and I'm able to get everything out that I needed to get out because I'm not looking in his eyes or looking in his face or whatever, and that makes it a lot easier. But I still have this inherent fear that I'm going to tell him something and he's either going to dismiss it or he's going to not be present while I'm speaking to him, or he's going to diminish it and say, oh, it's not that big of a deal, because that's what I experienced my entire child. And still to this day, I will still happen if I speak to my mom about something. Typically, her, not response, but typically her, whatever, is to change the subject, you know, and talk about something else. Let me turn the slide on. There we go. But either way, the conversation doesn't happen. You know, whatever we were supposed to be discussing, or whatever I wanted to discuss, doesn't get discussed because she doesn't want to be a part of the conversation. Because being a part of the conversation would require her to be accountable for her actions and to perhaps admit that she was wrong about something. You know what I mean? It requires a certain level of accountability that she hasn't had to have before, or has avoided, basically. So the conversation just doesn't happen. When it came to the three things, to nurture, to protect, and to guide, that mothers are supposed to provide, those are the kinds of things that, I mean, guidance, it's some things. I don't know, when it comes to protection, I'd have to have more of a concrete example of what that looks like in motherhood, because I feel like that was also, you know, it was there, but it wasn't there all the time. The nurturing, that wasn't there, like hugs, kisses, and not just like the physical affection, but, you know, just being told and assured, you know, that things are going to be okay, or that, you know, we can get through this, or I don't know. Nurturing is another wide topic, but yeah, there's just a lot. There's a lot. So if you happen to come across this and these are things that you're experiencing, please just know that you are not alone. There's nothing wrong with you, but you still have to go through the process of healing the, you know, damage that was done for you. And my mother was by no means similar to Jeanette's mother in the abuse, you know, the level of abuse that she endured. There's no comparison. However, I can absolutely attest to, you know, there being very large aspects of our relationship, especially the emotional intelligence, and again, it still is, that we're lacking. And just being able to watch a video and hear someone put it into words and then say, oh my goodness, you know, I resonate with this so much because this is also what I experienced, just makes you feel a lot less lonely. She definitely goes on to share in the video, you know, after she speaks to the other gal that was going to go on and talk about her story, you know, ways to heal from this and things like that. But again, just know that you are not alone. It is not your fault. And as a self-love coach myself, there are ways that I can support you, you know, through healing through a situation like this. First and foremost, it's just getting to the root of the fact that it does impact you in the first place. The fact that this is what is causing, you know, your struggles with communication, your struggles with intimacy, your struggles with trust, you know, being able to trust that you can share your feelings and thoughts and opinions in a space in which you aren't going to be shot down or belittled, or, you know what I mean? So once we can determine, you know, that these are the things that you experience, which again, like she mentioned, like the therapist mentioned, many women have experienced this in one form or another. And it's not necessarily because their mothers were extremely abusive. It's just because they didn't know better. My mom didn't know better, so she couldn't do better. Her mom's always been in survival mode, where it's like the bills just need to be paid, and that's what's most important. You know what I mean? We are living. We have the necessities for life in the physical necessities, you know, a physical roof over our head, physical clothes on our back, physical food in our bellies, and, you know, an air conditioner and a heater. And, you know, we should be good. That's, you know, that's all you need to live in life, is and survive and thrive. And we all know that we are emotional community beings, and we need more than just those physical necessities in our lives to thrive. So, you know, again, as a coach, this is something that I would be discussing with my clients, you know, in addition to that lack of emotional intelligence and that lack of, I'm not even sure what else to call it, but that emotional layer of, it could just be one relationship, it could be multiple relationships. What other aspects of your life are lacking? You know, do you have a community? Even if it's just 2 or 3 people. Community is such a huge part of our overall health, like our mental health. It benefits us to be able to interact and spend time with other individuals, whether it be virtually, which we know is not the same, but you know, going out and going to events and getting to know people who share the same interests and just having conversations is such an important part of our lives in general. You know, so it could be that that's lacking. It could be that, you know, oftentimes as a mother myself, you know, our lives get completely immersed in our children, and we have to create a plan with those around us, whether it be, you know, our partner, spouse, husband, our family members that are willing and able, you know, to support us when we need a break, you know. And a lot of us, which just goes back to that superwoman schema, are just so afraid to ask. You know, I just made a post yesterday about asking for help when you don't need it, because you don't have to do everything. You know what I mean? If you're bringing in groceries and someone asks, hey, could you use a hand with that? And you have 6 bags on each arm and you're like, nah, I got it. Just say yes. Just say that you could use a hand. You know, we have to go through that process of literally facing that fear and realizing that it's okay, you know, to come out on the other side of it after you ask that person to help you with the grocery bags and realize, okay, you know, nothing happened. Hopefully that person isn't going to say, wow, you know, you must be too weak to bring in all the grocery bags yourself, because that's just going to basically pour salt all over the wound that you're trying to heal. But if you know that you're in an environment in which you're safe, then you can ask for help, and ask for it when you don't need it. You know what I mean? Ask someone to come take your children to the park just because you want to watch your favorite show, you know, uninterrupted. It doesn't have to be that you actually have something to do, like, oh, I have a homework assignment to do or whatever. It could just be that you want to do something on your own, you know, that you need a break from your children and your children need a break from you. So yeah, there's a lot. But this has been a great conversation that I've been having with myself. I hope that if you come across this video, that, you know, if anything resonates with you, that you share that with me, because I definitely would appreciate hearing it. I hope that the video portion is not muted, but if it is, it's okay, because I did put the subtitles up. I know it's not the same, but I'll be sure to, I gotta figure out how to link the video itself without linking to my Facebook, because I know sometimes when you try to use those links, if you're not on Facebook, then it doesn't go through, so I gotta figure that out, but I'll do that. But yeah, it's been a wonderful conversation. I appreciate all of you. I'll be back for another Twitch stream in a little while to play some games. But yeah, if you're interested in having a conversation with me, you can leave a comment below. You can find me on TikTok or email me. If you're interested in coaching with me, you can visit my website and get some more information about working with me and complete an application. But for now, it's been real, it's been fun, it's been wonderful, and I'll be back tomorrow with another conversation. So yeah, have a beautiful day, and again, I'll be back on Twitch in a little bit, stream some games.